Good morning, everyone. Thank you for jumping on with us here in person or on Zoom. Our guest speaker today is Stephanie Alatorre. Woo! Woo! A lot of us know her as our team leader extraordinaire. Stephanie, if you don't mind, with you being our guest speaker today, how far back do you want to tell us about your story and what you're doing today and what you see coming up in the future, not only just for Calabasas, but just for real estate in general overall?
Well, you know what? I just don't know. I've been thinking about, all this morning. I'm like, well, what part of the story or what story or what am I going to say? And I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just go with it. I mean, there's always messages because throughout our life, right?
100%.
Throughout our lives, we learn a lot, right? That's part of the growth. That's part of the journey, so on and so forth. So, I always like to tell, I think it's totally funny. So I'll go back and just give you bullet points. So I was born abroad. I was born in Pakistan, right? Mangal, Pakistan.
Ooh.
And then grew up and spent most of my time in Eastern Washington, right? The total podunk, little town, right? On the river, on the Snake River. And then lived in Saudi Arabia for a period of time. My dad wasn't in the military, but he was heavy construction. So it just took me a lot of different places, which was really cool, right? It gave me an appreciation of just life in general and different countries and different, all that kind of stuff. So that was fun. Went to WSU, moved over to Seattle, and then brought down to California. So basically I was in the legal industry for about 15 years. I don't know if that created that love of contracts for me or not. I have no idea. But worked in real estate law, worked in criminal law, worked in intellectual property, so on and so forth. Did all that kind of stuff. And then I'm like, okay, there's got to be something more to this. And then I got married early, had started the baby process at 24 years old. So as you guys know, I think most of you have met all three of my kids that are, that are the love of my life, right? They're everything to me, right? And then, I say that, and I have learned recently that they can't be everything to me. They can be everything to me, but I still have to have me, right? And we've talked about those kind of things on our morning mindsets, etc. But they're still everything. But I'm really exploring and having more of my own life and making decisions on my own. So I decided to get into real estate almost 24 years ago. And when I think a lot of you have heard me say that you don't find real estate finds you, right? And that's when my real journey in life began. Okay, I had a newborn baby. I was graduating. I didn't finish at WSU, and then I went back and decided when I was pregnant, because my two youngest are 15 months apart. Right, so there was this phase of my life where it was like, I have to do everything. I was buying a new house. I was pregnant with my third child, a 15-month, then someone that, my baby that was 15 months, Bree that was 15 months older, and then a 7-year-old. So I decided that I wanted to go ahead and finish my schooling, get my degree, and then all of a sudden I wanted to go ahead and buy a house at that time, and then get my real estate license at that time. All this stuff happening. I'm like, what am I doing? But went ahead and did it anyway, right? Because a lot of times we're like, okay, what the hell? Because I have this one picture in June of whatever year, so 98. Right, I'm pregnant with my cap and gown, and I'm studying for my real estate exam, and I'm closing escrow on a house.
At that age, at that time, were you like 28 or 27 or?
I was 32.
32, wow, there you go, killer.
Yeah, I was 31. I was 32 when Landon was born, right? And so then all of a sudden it's like, okay, let's do this thing. And one of the reasons why I was getting my real estate, my license, was because someone had told me, and the people doing my loan for my house said I should be a processor.
Oh,
Right?
process. Got it.
Yeah, loan process. I'm like, oh, okay. And then whatever, I want to do something else other than going to the law firm every single day. I want to have that flexibility, right, with my schedule, because I want to be with my kids. And so what did I do? I didn't become a loan processor. I did one loan. I'm like, this is not, this is not what I want to do. So passed my exam. And then, you know, as we all know, we get inundated with letters, blah, 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 blah. And I went and interviewed at Prudential at the time in Northern California. And he's like, let's do this. I'm like, okay, let's do it. And the beauty of being new to real estate, right, and is like, hey, just tell me. I'm a recipe girl. I was always tagged a recipe girl, right, which means follow the directions, right? Follow the directions, do what you're told, and you will be successful. I'm like, okay, I'm in. Tell me what the flip to do. So the cool thing was 2 weeks into my real estate career, this is why I'm such a fanatic about coaching, right? And however you get it, just as long as it's by the right person that's telling you.
Yeah, totally.
Right? My coaching is because 2 weeks in, and this is when Tom Ferry was still with his dad, Mike, right? Tom Ferry himself came and did a productivity school for our offices. The company that I worked for was almost like a forward living, which is interesting. They had 13 offices, right? So a bunch of us were there. I met Tom, boom, boom, boom. And it's like, oh my God, I have scripts, because the first thing I was like, what the hell? I have no idea what to say. I have no idea what to do. I've just been a legal assistant for flipping ever. And that's how I got it, right? Wow. So I started doing the scripts. I started doing all that. Boom, I jumped into coaching, right? Out of the gate, I had no idea. I didn't even tell my husband at the time. I don't even know how I got away with it, but I'm like, sign me up for coaching. I'm paying $1,000 a month. I just went all in, right?
All $1,000 a month back then too.
Yep.
Wow. No change in that. It's like still $1,000.
Yeah, it's like
the only thing not hit by inflation.
Right? It's so crazy. So I jumped in and I closed 29 homes my first year, with taking care of everything. And so it was funny because people have told the story, because I was like, oh God, I would have little breakdowns. I wasn't closing anything, I didn't close. So get this, my first year I closed 29 deals, but I didn't close anything till the end of my 5th month.
Wow.
Right? So when you're talking about momentum, and when I tell you guys, when I share different things and coaching with you guys, it's because it's from personal experience. It's from my growth. It's from, hey, don't give up, have that momentum, do the things that people are telling you to do, and you will not fail, right? That everybody's time frame may be different, right? You may go about it, but it's talking to people every single day, whether you feel like it or not. Like I said, when I told you before, hey, if it's 5 o'clock and you haven't made a contact yet, go hide and make a contact. I remember one time when I was trying to get my first listing, which was an expired listing, I'm literally trying to hide from my kids and my husband, right? And I'm in the back room having phone conversations, and I hear my baby crying, knocking on the door. Okay, one, husband, can you take care of the child for a second? But you have to do whatever to make sure that you're doing your job against all odds, it may seem, right? So I just was after it, and my husband at the time had said, hey, Stephanie, if you don't get a check by the end of January, right, then you have to go back to the law firm. I'm like, yes, right? I'm like, and I'm sure you guys know what that means. Mm-hmm. So, but literally, I got my first check and closing January 31st.
That's huge. I mean, because a lot of times we think, hey, I'm new, I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna give myself 90 days. And if I don't get anything in 90 days, I'm out totally. And you think about it, I mean, maybe the cost of getting a license then was maybe the same as now, $1,500, $1,000, whatever it was. And you're investing in coaching right off the bat. And so I imagine when you invested in coaching, you were collapsing time frames, right? All the stuff you would have learned on your own over 5 years, 10 years, you condensed it literally into like a 4-month period of time with work ethic. I wrote here 3 feet from gold, breakdowns before breakthroughs, and then compounding efforts, right? In this case, you just condensed like a bomb. You probably were making contacts like crazy, adjusting with your coach or that group, and then you didn't lose sight of, hey, I'm just one appointment away, one whatever away from breakthrough, and then bam, month 5 you closed 1 deal, 2 deals, 3 deals, and then it went the rest of the year to 29. Holy smokes!
Yeah, so I closed that 1 deal in January and then 7 in March. And then it just kept going. So it was, yeah, it was crazy. Then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, I need someone to help clean the house, all that kind of stuff.
Question, what year was that? Just for perspective.
Oh yeah, that was, so Landon was born in, I think it's 98. So I closed it from September to September. So then 99.
So 99 interest rates were almost 10%. So I was looking at my mom's old mortgage statement. She was like, oh, I think my rate at the time was like 8, 9, 10%.
Yeah, because I can't remember the my interest. I can't remember what my interest rate was when we bought the house. But then, as the story continues, right? I divorced, and then I bought him out of that house, and my interest rate was 9%. In 2000, 2001, something like that.
And at that point, rate didn't matter. You guys were just in your own zone.
That's so funny. Yeah, so then, and so then the next year, just kicking butt, I closed almost 40 homes. And then there was a couple things that happened. One, going through a divorce, right? All of a sudden, because when we talk about when you are on a growth trajectory, right? Not everyone goes along with you, right? Not everyone is supportive of it. Not everyone is comfortable with it. We all had our, I had my challenges, obviously, with my husband at the time. And then even, you guys, some of you have heard me talk about even with my mom, right? My mom was having a huge issue with my growth and the wealth and and, which is interesting, right? So, yep. So then I went, so what was interesting is then going into my 3rd year, started going through the divorce, which was a nasty one. And then my company, right? The company that I was working for, Prudential, that's when, so that was in 2000 when Coldwell Banker was doing that massive acquisitions. They were buying out everything. So overnight, right? Overnight, we went from Prudential to Coldwell Banker, right? So the stuff that that happens, in real estate, for those of you that are new to real estate, with some of the stuff is not new. It's part of our industry, right? Which is kind of a crazy little
change.
Yeah, change is always constant, right? There's just stuff. So how do you pivot? How do you do that? So, here I am. Sometimes I look back, but everything happens for a reason, right? Everything happens not to you, but for you, right? All the little cliches, all that kind of stuff is absolutely 100% true. Maybe while you're going through it, you don't see it or understand it till even maybe years down the road, right? So when all this was happening, I got, here, let me back up a little bit. So after my 1st year, just because of my, huge success, and I was asked to start training, right? And one of the things I ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to be a teacher, right? And so I always thought teaching had to be like elementary school or middle school or high school, And then it occurred to me, when they asked me to train, that I'm like, oh my God, this is me teaching. Mm-hmm. This is me sharing. I mean, I used to have this one huge room. I had a classroom for 10 kids. I mean, the whole bit. So anyway, when they started doing this acquisition, they had an office that they needed help with in managing. So of course, all of a sudden, because of me going through a divorce and I was like, I came from a place of fear. Right, I came from a fake place of fear and panic a little bit. Hey, Jessica, I have a book for you. Where I'm like, okay, I mean, I'm being offered this management position, right? I mean, and 2 years that I'm asked to go run an office and build an office.
Woo.
And I'm like, okay, so why did I do this? So then I know there's a little sense of security, right? What you assume is a sense of security. I already had it, but I didn't realize it at that time.
Interesting. Wow.
You know, and I had, you know, was making, you know, multiple six figures, so on and so forth. And then, but all of a sudden like I said, came from a place of fear. I was like, okay, let me go do this because I'll have a little baby paycheck. What? Like, it's so silly, but it's part of the path, right? It's part of the path. If I didn't do that, then I wouldn't be where I am now. And that's why I always press upon you, all of you too, that if you're going through things and you're not quite understanding why, it's so you can help people later, right? You're able to share your story. You're able to come from a place of, you know, being empathetic and authentic and be able to say, God, you know what? I was in your shoes, right? You know, look at it this way, or maybe, you know, shift this way. Like Christine and I have a lot of conversations and help navigate, right? Well, plus we don't get to our age without having gone through some shidizzle, right? There's lots of, you know, but it's like I said, life happens for you, not to you. And it's just how you go about it. So then, golly gee. So yeah, so then I went and I built that office. Up. And then I was recruited to Southern California, right? And I'm like, God, you know, so there were some things going on in my personal life. And so I got recruited by actually Stephen Christie, right? Stephen Christie, who was one of my very first business coaches for one-on-one with Mike Ferry. He's like, I'm building an office down here.
Wow.
He goes, I want you to come down and be my director of training and recruiting, right? So I'm like, wow. Do I move from Northern California to Southern California by myself, obviously with my little ones, right? And I don't know flipping person
That's all.
at all, other than Steven, right? And just, so I flew down, I'm just like, okay. So I did it. I went ahead and made
what year was that by?
So that was 2003.
Wow. Dang. And which office or location were you building out of?
Out of Thousand Oaks.
Oh, out here, was that Coldwell-Banker as well? Or
Yep.
was that like, wow, geez.
Yeah, so instead of being corporate, it was a franchise. So it was Coldwell-Banker Premier. So came down here and built his office, right? Built the office, built the core team. And what's interesting is some of you, I think, know Vicki Cummings. So what's interesting is I run into her at different times. I'll either run into her at a Mike Ferry event or a couple weeks ago or however long it was when I was at Sacramento for the Women's Council. I ran into her there and she was telling everyone just like, Stephanie was my trainer and got me in, da da da. And what's cool is those core people are still in the business kicking ass today. So you know, a lot of times we don't know the impact that we have on people until at another time. So basically it's kind of started my journey of and my passion. I mean, I've always had a passion to help people with their journey in real estate, because it is a mindset journey going through this business and going through life. So I'm very thankful for it. And then just apply the same things towards, you know, being in this position, because now instead of going after, you know, sellers and buyers, which I still like, I have a couple closings this month, you know, which is exciting, you know, as from a referral standpoint, but my closings are amazing agents like all of you, right? And one of the things in this position too, where Gary Keller and the Keller Williams mindset is the team leader, right, has to be the mega agent of the office, right? And that was a mind shift for me, because instead of closing, you know, my 30, 40 transactions, you know, homes a year, now I'm closing, anywhere from, 80 to 100 transactions, right? Or agents, if you will, right? So I'm closing, like right now I'm working on, in your guys' terms, probably, a 10 million, $15 million listing, right? I'm working on, a big fish too, right? But it's just different, right? So it's still emotionally, we're still dealing with emotions. This particular team that I'm working with is definitely strictly an investor type, right? Where it's just all the numbers, right? There's no emotional attachment to it at all. So, which is interesting. So it's parallel, because it's still an emotional, it's an emotional game. It's needs analysis. It's doing the whole stuff, but helping people with their lives, right? Helping them grow, helping them helping them get out of their own way, helping, just being compassionate and empathetic in their journey.
And it's so crazy that the skills you're talking about are so transferable. I mean, you're literally replacing, and you said it, and I don't want people to lose sight of it, that, oh, well, that's recruiting. That's different than getting a listing or getting a buyer. It's totally the same thing. When she brings up the words needs analysis, that's really just assessing where someone's at in their life in relation to their goals. And if there is a relationship, the only way you can have a needs analysis with somebody is that they actually are willing to have connected with you and being open to trusting you in that. Now you can trust a complete stranger could trust you right off the bat because there's connection, whatever it is. A lot of times it's building a relationship over time from a cold hello to a warm, hey, thank you for taking my call, taking my text message. The guys, just don't lose sight that working with 100 prospective leads is the same thing, getting listings and getting buyers, as it is attracting agents. And I think from my experience, it's actually harder in Stephanie's position because the pool of people who are like agents and productive agents or getting their license is a much smaller pool than what we're working with. My coach had said it best, you go down 1 mile, there's 50,000 clients or whatever, the radius around this is well over 50,000 opportunities to buy, sell, invest real estate. So just keep that in the forefront that because I'm doing this to a degree with you, and I'm telling you now, it is way harder than me finding a listing appointment, several listing appointments and taking the listing. So thank you.
You're welcome.
It's kind of like it's already listed. Like it's something already listed and that like the agent's already somewhere unless it's a new licensee. So I never thought about that, but that's such a good analysis about it's the same really.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, it's having, it's building those relationships and people have to want to trust you, especially the ones, like you said, that are already listed, right? They already have the for sale sign in the yard. And it's just letting them know that, hey, it's building that trust and people are watching you, right? They're saying, oh, okay, what kind of environment? Because it
matters.
It matters totally. And it's, and typically when people are making a move, it's based on emotion versus, logic. Yep, for sure. So, I don't know what else.
Well, one of the biggest questions, you fast forward, and it's funny, 2003, I started my sales career, and my mom was like, oh, you should get your real estate license. And she was married to Remax and Coldwell Banker at the time. It'd have been funny if I joined your office at 18, right? But no, total divergence. So you fast forward, we're now going almost 20 years from that point. 2023 is on the horizon. What's kind of your perspective on things? Because you fast forward, you've trained mega agents, people have come through Century 21, now Keller Williams. What are you seeing in terms of this pivot or shift on the horizon? From a team leader standpoint, you're meeting how many agents a month and they're sharing what they're seeing. How do you boil that down to vision?
I think one of the biggest things and what's always been the steady Eddie message throughout, the time that I've been in real estate is you guys create the story, right? Yeah. Are there going to be changes and shifts and and, you can either buy in, and we've been talking about this a lot lately too. You can either buy into the message or the media, right? Or you can create, because no matter what happens, people are always buying and selling, no matter what. Right? And we have people that are spending money at massive rates right now. Like right now, I'm going to help someone, they found a $7.2 million listing that, or a home they want to buy, which means they got to sell. And it's just like, wow, right? People are buying and selling because they want to. That's why we have to have conversations with them. We have to be the surgeon. Remember, we have to ask the questions. So you guys can create the whatever it is that you want. Okay. So, and what if, because people are trying to predict when, because there's shifts happening, but it's like, okay, is it going to be extreme? Is it going to be a little bit of da-da-da? Instead of trying to analyze it and figure it out, right? Yes, do we want to know what's happening on a macro and a micro level of the market? But you guys look at the statistics and figure out what the story is versus what you're hearing on the TV or what have you. So it's important for you to let people know, but what is most important for you all to do is be skilled. Be skilled in what you're saying, what you're doing, etc. Right? In practice your trade, sharpen your axe, not your ass, your axe, right? And get to work, right? Just get to work. Have as many conversations as you can on a daily basis. So in a shift, if you're talking to only 10 people a day, talk to 20, right? If you're talking to 20, talk to 40. Okay, it's a matter of increasing the number of people that you're speaking to on a daily basis, plus being skilled.
Yes.
Practicing your listing presentation. Practice your listing presentation, practice your objections, get it down and do it on a daily basis. One of your income producing activities is role play and script practice. If you don't want to do it with other people, I don't care, do it with yourself, right? Read your scripts, get it down, and then just talk to people. It's a numbers game, guys. Whether you like it or not, we're in sales, okay? So whatever buzzwords that you want to use that make you feel better about relationship building, having conversations, if you don't want to say prospecting or lead generating, whatever, it's a numbers game at the end of the day, right? So the more people that you can speak with, the more opportunities that you have.
Absolutely. We call it goal setting to the now. Like someone we're working with a client, it's, hey, I have this goal and it's so far out. So how do we relate market of the moment to achieving their goals? And a lot of times we'll say, hey, it's a terrible idea to sell, or it's a terrible idea to buy based on your situation. And the more of those conversations we have, the more we disqualify people based on where the market of the moment is to the relation of their goal. Then, hey, you eliminate the fluff and you kind of find the people who are ready now. Right? Raw, ready, able, and willing clients who need to buy, need to sell. And you can discern that by having multiple conversations, sifting through the rough and the gruff and all that fun stuff.
Yep.
Dude, Stephanie, do you take on personal clients as coaches, like a coach to like a MAPS program, or is it just, hey, we can just call you? I mean, this is a serious question.
I do.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Everyone's concerned about getting like a MAPS coach or an outside coach, and it's like, wow, we have some fantastic leaders here that they could, essentially tap into. I mean, there's times you've helped me in the last year for sure, in terms of like mindset, purpose, perspective on things, and then just today, pages of notes.
Nope.
Any parting words before we jump off?
Gosh, I probably, I've been talking about different messages, like sometimes if you keep hearing things repeated, like a little snippet. So the other one that I've been hearing a lot lately is, whose life are you leading? Whose life are you leading or living? Right? And you want to think about it sometimes, because, like on the way here, I was reflecting on different things, because, sometimes people will say different things and you don't realize that maybe you attached to it, because there are certain things that people go, oh, you shouldn't do that, or you should do that, or da 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 da. And then maybe you kind of pick up, then all of a sudden living your life on someone else's terms,
Wow.
not yours.
Yeah.
So the message that I've been getting and from different people, but not intentionally, right, is whose life are you living or leading? So I would think about that. And I'm going to tell you this other thing that I heard, like, hey, Ro, I put on my board at home, and I'll probably offend some of you, but it's okay. Oh God, okay. It's really simple, but you know, when you're trying to make a decision, or you're just like, okay, does this feel right? Does it not feel right? What's the deal? And this gal said it on this thing I was watching the other night. She goes, if it's not a hell yes, right? If it's not a hell yes, then it's a fuck no.
That's awesome.
There you go.
Mic drop, mic drop.
My God.
So I'm going to leave you with that, but just believe in yourself and just live your life. Okay. Not what someone else thinks that you should be living. So love y'all guys. Thank you.
Wow, good job, Stephanie.